Hello, everybody. It is day 23 of the 90-day novel, and we're actually making pretty good headway. I got done 2,400 words today. That is one of the chapters. I rewrote chapter 16, um, and based on, so I have little predictions here, and chapter 16 did get above what I was predicting. I was predicting it for 2388 and it's at 2411, so not too much over what I predicted, but if anything is under what I predicted, it'll help negate that kind of same with the other two chapters that I did. So the first one, chapter 5, I got done and it was exactly the same as I predicted. But chapter 11 that I got done yesterday was a little bit under. So we'll see how that pans out. But now is the time that I would be thinking about the rest of the process. So that would be all of the editing and the formatting and even the publishing. So I'm going to be trying a new publishing format with this one. Obviously, I've talked about doing the store, but that is very expensive and I don't have the funds to do that currently. We'll see by the end of the 90 days. But I'm really not sure with this first go around. I might have to use an already established publisher for the first 3 books. I have 4 books that are currently going to be published at the end of this 90 days that I'm working on. A couple of them that are already being written that I'll talk about a little more here in the next few days. But yeah, going back to the actual point of going through the process. So, the editing process. I don't know if I've talked about this yet, but my editing process is I use the Microsoft Word grammar and spelling check. And I check that way, just a simple, once over, going through everything and seeing what suggestions it has. And then I move over to the online Hemingway editor, and that's what I use to sort of refine it, get rid of filler words, and point out where I'm using passive voice and see if I can change that, and start using active voice a little bit more. Sometimes passive voice is needed because you're telling a story and you don't want to seem too abruptive especially when you're talking about info and you want to give info to the reader. You can't be too obtrusive with that, or it just seems a little not so good, and it gets really annoying to read when you're reading the narrator just give all of this. So you want the character to kind of passively say, "This is kind of what's going on," and just sort of gloss over it. And then I move it back over into the formatting. So I have no idea what a paragraph is. I've heard anywhere from 5 sentences to 8 sentences to 10 sentences, but I can't tell. And some sentences are longer than others, and I want my paragraphs to kind of be uniform. So what I do is every 4 lines, whatever the next sentence is in the 5th line. Sometimes I'll do it a bit different because it doesn't pan out to be like, sometimes I'll do 4 lines and then 4 lines instead of doing 5 and 3, or sometimes certain things need to be together, so there's like a super long paragraph and then I double space it, because personally I find that the double spacing paragraph is easier to read. I know that a lot of the books that I have in my room are they you move it down to the next line, and then you indent it. And I'm not a big fan of that. I I like reading these books. I enjoy reading what I write, and that's what you should always do when you're writing. You should enjoy what you write, and just to make it easier for me to read, I put it into a dyslexic-friendly font. I believe I use either the new default font. I think it's called Abros or something like that, but I use the new default Microsoft font, or I use Comic Sans because they're just easier to read, and I want reading to be relaxing and chill and fun. I don't think reading should be a chore. So if I can do these little things to make it easier for me to read, maybe it makes it easier for someone else to read, even if you don't actually need any of these things to read. It is nice to just make it easier on your brain. But yeah, then I format it all, I change the font, I change the size, and I do all of the spacing. And then what I do is I use a text to speech, specifically on the Microsoft thing. I use the Microsoft text to speech, and I listen back to it, because if you're reading the same thing over and over again, it starts to warp your perception of it. Either it sounds better or it sounds worse. And I take a few days from formatting it before I go back to listening to it. So I'll go off and I'll do chores, or I'll play video games, or I'll just do something else to give my brain a break from looking at the project, or maybe I go write something else. But I tend to try to not do writing when going into the final editing phase, just because I don't want any distractions or something. So I take a couple of days, and then I go and I watch and I read through it and I listen to it, just to make sure that everything sounds okay, everything looks okay, all of the tone is coming off okay with all of the characters, everything that I want is coming across. And that's kind of my entire editing process. And then I have to think about the publishing process. So normally I have Novelio and Wattpad and Inkitt, and I publish on all of those places. I also upload a PDF version to my Linktree, and that's kind of how I published my first book and all of my short stories. But I'm trying to actually make money off of this one, because I want to be able to do this as a job, and I want to prove not only to myself but also to my parents and my significant other that this is a viable way to make money, and even to prove to myself that this is actually worth my time, because yes, I find joy in it. I also really want to be productive, and one of the problem is if I'm not doing something worth my time, then I shouldn't be doing it, no matter how much I enjoy it, and that is a problem with myself. But when no one's reading what I'm writing, well, what's the point in writing anyways? So I really want to start making money off of this and build a career as a writer. So I'm going to try and use Blurb. And I think I've talked about this before, where they only give a 17.5% cut on everything that you write. So I'm going to be uploading the 4 books that I currently have on there at the end of this 90 days. And hopefully from those books and from those sales, I can create this store where I want to put in bookmarks, and I want to put in stickers, and I want to be able to mark down these prices, because I'm getting all of the profit. I want to make the books more affordable, but when going off of other publishers. It's just really hard to make a living and make it profitable and still make it cheap for other people. So what I'm going to be doing is trying to go through Blurb. They have one-to-one instructions that you can use on their website where you just upload it, and I think it goes through a review program. You set the price, and that's kind of just it. You either put in a PayPal or by check. I'm probably going to do PayPal when I get that set up. So it'll be interesting going through a different publishing process. And I don't know if they'll make me take down, like, my first book, Our Hope, is something that I'm going to be publishing on Blurb, but is also going to stay up and on all of my free platforms, just because I really want people to read it. I love it, and I was 16 when I wrote it, so I don't think it's really that good. It's just one of those, like, airport novels that you pick up because it looks semi-interesting, but it's really just this blank Hallmark movie sort of thing. So that I'm gonna keep on my free profiles, but if you want to support me, then go to Blurb, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking about at this stage. I'm thinking about the rest of the second draft and what comes after the second draft, and kind of planning out how long each stage is going to take me. Normally, it takes me like 3 months to write it, and then 1 month to edit it, because editing is just so much easier. I can have the text to speech go on like 3 times speed and just absolutely run through thousands of words for a few hours a day. But yeah, that's kind of what the process looks like and what I'm thinking about currently. I'm also trying to juggle a couple of projects which I've never done before, so it'll be interesting. Hopefully I don't mix up chapters. That'd be really weird if one random chapter from my other book that I'll talk about here in a few days ends up in this book. It'll look really out of place. But yeah, that's kind of all I have for today. Catch you on the flip side.